Hello, my name's Mark Goodacre. I'm sitting at Exeter College, Oxford. Done a lot of thinking over the years about the origins of the gospel tradition, and one of the things you just run into all the time is the term oral tradition. People that write about the New Testament are obsessed with oral tradition. You know, if I had a pound for every time someone mentioned oral tradition, I would be extremely rich. I've done it myself in my own scholarship. I've appealed to oral traditions sometimes. Sometimes you need to. People actually did talk to one another. They didn't walk around in silence, only reading books and reading, you know, literary text. Clearly, people talk to one another. And if that's what you mean by oral tradition, then we've got it. But I've become skeptical about the appeal to oral tradition in scholarship because so often it's just evoked as a category, as something to try and get us out of a particular difficulty. And because oral tradition is always lost, except insofar as it's crystallized in later texts, it's infinitely malleable. It can solve any problem. And I don't like a hypothesis that has a get out of jail free card all the time. I'll tell you why I started getting suspicious about oral tradition. I started making a list of all the imagery that New Testament scholars use when they're talking about oral tradition. And 9 times out of 10, they use water imagery. So they talk about the reservoir of oral tradition, or living springs of oral tradition, tributaries, rivers, lakes, oceans. I mean, literally fluid. It worries me when their major metaphor can literally fall through your hands. It makes me suspicious. I think it shows that it's under theorized, it's not carefully thought through, and it causes people. I mean, my problem with the appeal to oral tradition, I suppose it's not what it's affirming that people talk to one another, but it's what it's denying. It's used so often to avoid the obvious, which is frequently that one writer is literarily dependent on another. So we can actually see close agreements between gospel writers, for example, see that there are literary links, and yet we still want to appeal to oral tradition. I think it's true of John's Gospel as well. People just seem to prefer the category of oral tradition over literary links. My firm persuasion is we make better sense of John's Gospel, for example, if we see it as working with literary sources as well as things that may have been lost, things that we certainly have no access to anymore.